There are some simple daily behaviors that can radically influence your finances.
If you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
When it comes to our finances, we don't tend to think that our everyday behavior actually matters in the long run, that it doesn't make that much difference on how we handle our finances or whether we're even consistently spending less and saving more. But that actually isn't true. Larry and I in this video are going to run you through several scenarios, and these are simple daily behaviors. It's like a little checklist we run through that help us to consistently stay on track.
So let's start by being aware of our actions by how they relate to our bodies.
Stick with us, we'll explain, and it will make perfect sense. Okay, at the end of the day, we want you to think about different body parts. For instance, let's start with your fingers. What did your fingers do today that influenced whether you spent money or whether you saved money? For instance, those fingers could have been spending some time scrolling aimlessly through Amazon, just sort of looking to see what's there, what's new. That behavior is going to contribute ultimately to you spending more money rather than saving it. But here's some ideas of some things your fingers can do that will help you to save money.
You can scroll through some of your favorite frugal YouTube channels like this one, and get some ideas on how to save money.
Here's some practical application. These are several things that our fingers did this week that are ultimately helping us to save more money.
One of the things my fingers did this week was I took apart a fan and oiled the motor parts so that it would work again. It was actually being thrown out.
We rescued it. We gave it new life and new purpose. But so what's so important about the fact that he took a fan apart and was able to fix it? The fact is we are using fans stationed around our house in areas that we sit so that we can actually raise the thermostat on our central air. Now, statistically, because fans work on evaporation and they make you feel cooler when you're sitting in front of them, it means that you'll be able to raise your central AC up to 4 degrees with no noticeable loss in comfort. That, my friend, spells savings.
And it really does work. We're noticing with the fans, we can be comfortable with our air temperature being just a little bit warmer. Here's something else we did. We line dried our clothing.
I also made a huge batch of garbanzo beans. Now, this is something I've talked real briefly about on the channel, but I'll go into a little bit more detail here. Whenever I make beans, I make an entire pressure cooker full of beans, regardless of how many beans the recipe that I'm making calls for. What that allows me to do is use the pressure cooker once, make an entire pressure cooker full of beans, and then I divide those beans into thirds, and I use the beans for 3 different recipes throughout the week. Now, in the case of the garbanzo beans, I used 1/3 of the beans and I made garbanzo bean soup out of 1/3 of the beans. Then I used another third of the beans and made sort of a Mediterranean inspired dish. I actually used a bunch of leftover odds and ends of stuff that I had on hand, guys, and I made it into this really tasty dish. And then I used the final third of the beans and I made a walnut lime spread with those chickpeas. Now, if you've never heard of my walnut lime spread, it is so amazingly good. And I actually just did a video where I demonstrate how to make this, yes, ever so amazing walnut lime chickpea spread. I'm going to make sure that that video, if you haven't seen it, is linked up above and in the description of this video.
Through one of our neighborhood Facebook groups, we found out that somebody was giving away free raspberries. All we had to do was go and pick them. So Hope and Dan went one afternoon and picked a bucket load of raspberries, which we've been eating this week.
Now, he also had some really interesting mint plants, and it was a different variety of mint than I currently have growing in my backyard. So he sent me home also with some mint.
Hope also dehydrated some carrot tops. We had both dehydrators out on the front porch working on the carrot tops, and that way we were saving from heat being added to our house where we had our air conditioning on.
Let's move on to thinking about your feet at the end of the day. Let's say, for instance, you went grocery shopping. Did your feet take you into that grocery store while you had a grocery list in your hands? See, hands and feet, this is like a combined thing, two different body parts. So how you walk into that store and how you travel, even walk throughout that store, will dictate whether you are able to spend less money at the store.
And speaking of feet, have you done some walking this week?
Yes.
You know, walking tends to balance out our emotions and it helps us to sleep. Plus, it gives you good exercise.
Here's one you probably don't think about: your mouth. Now, I tend to be a very loud person, and Larry tends to actually think before he responds to something.
Sometimes.
So if one of us is guilty of this particular thing, it is definitely going to be me, emoting about money. Now, think about how strongly what comes out of your mouth impacts your actions. If you are sitting around all day going, we're never going to have enough money, we're never going to make this budget work, we're never going to meet these goals, this is never going to happen, oh my gosh, it's not going to help you in reaching your goals. But if you spend your time saying, I am so grateful for what we do have and what we are blessed with, I'm so happy that we are making small forward steps every single day. What happens is if you aren't making progress as quickly as you think you should be making progress or you want to make progress, you wind up sort of allowing yourself to get stuck in the mire rather than saying, you know what? We made some small forward steps this week. Good for us. We're going to keep going. And next week, those steps are going to be even a little bit bigger.
Now, what is your mind doing? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about how thankful you are for the things that you have? That helps us to be content. When we're content with what we have, we're not looking for other things to spend money on.
A part of your mind is understanding that success is going to come 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, one action at a time, one habit at a time. All of those are things that happen one at a time. And when your mind recognizes that, you're going to say, you know what? I'm doing okay. I'm going to keep moving forward.
Now, these are small checks and balances that we can implement every day. But just remember, all of these small steps add up to big leaps in progress.
Now, speaking of big leaps in progress, if you are wanting to know what we have done in our financial life and in our life together as a couple in order to reach great big goals, even though we were living on a small income, we wrote an ebook about 10 steps that we took to radically reduce our expenses. The ebook is free. We walk you step by step through each one of those things that we did to lower our expenses. There's checklists throughout the ebook. As I mentioned, did I tell you it's free? There's a link to it in the description of the video.
And while you're doing things, make sure that you hit that like button if you're enjoying this video. It kind of helps with the YouTube algorithms. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, and that way you'll have this content coming to you on a weekly basis. How about considering some more things you can do in a single day?
All right, every single day, start out with a game plan. My entire life, you guys, is actually time blocked. I like to really have things planned out hour by hour so I know what I'm working on and what I am moving to next throughout my day. But even if you don't want to, break your day down to that minutia of detail, maybe you want to be a little more free-flowing, what you ought to do instead perhaps is just to have a written list of 3 goals. What do you want to do this day? What 3 steps are you going to take to move forward in your financial goals and to make sure that you are consistently spending less and saving more? Write those big 3 things down every day and make sure that you cover them.
One of 2 things is happening every day to all of us. Either we're controlling the day or the day is controlling us. And that's true with our finances too. Either we're controlling our finances or they are controlling us.
3rd daily habit, track your expenses. At the end of every day, make sure that you wrote down somewhere what you spent. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can actually track your expenses.
Well, the first way that we did, we just literally got out an old-fashioned expense book. You can use a notebook pad and just write down every time you spend money, write down what it is so you know where it's going.
These days, we use every dollar for our daily expenses. That's Dave Ramsey's free online budgeting tool, by the way. Our monthly expenses, I have spreadsheets that I created that we actually track all of our monthly expenses. We also track our goals and things like that. Several different things we use spreadsheets for. You, by the way, can get a copy of those spreadsheets. It comes in our Frugal Finances bundle, and I'm going to make sure that bundle is also listed in the description of this video if you want to get a copy of that.
And while we're talking about expenses and spending money, have you uploaded your receipts to Fetch? That's an app that can help you save some money.
Anybody else love Fetch? Okay, Fetch. What is so cool, and Fetch is not sponsoring this video, by the way, just so you know. I love Fetch, and that's why I talk about it often on this channel. It is probably the funnest free app I have ever used in my life, and it's probably one of the few that I use very consistently. What's nice about Fetch is you can actually upload any receipt you want. It doesn't matter where the receipt is from. You can upload it to Fetch and you can earn points. Now, best part about Fetch is after you earn those points, you can actually redeem those points for gift cards. And we just used a $50 gift card today, guys, that we earned through Fetch. It was a Sam's Club gift card, and we used it to renew our subscription to Sam's. So our subscription to Sam's this year, zero.
Free.
So, and that's the best thing of all, right?
Make sure that you're looking at your receipts. Don't let your receipts shame you. Let them instruct you. Look for areas that you might be spending money on that you don't have to, things you can tighten up on. Your receipts tell a story. Make sure that you're listening to what they're telling you.
All righty. Number 4 is you want to have a list of upcoming expenses. Now, here is why that is important. Let's say that you have some older appliances in your house, and believe me, in our house, it's all older appliances. So we've known for a while that they are on what we like to call borrowed time. And so you never know, like when you're going to wake up one day and go, well, that oven doesn't work anymore. And so having that list ahead of time, just sort of a running list, and knowing, okay, these are expenses that are coming up on the horizon. It doesn't have to be something big like an oven. It can be something much smaller, like let's say you need a new toaster oven, or you know that maybe your microwave is older and you want to replace it maybe with something that's smaller and more energy efficient. Whatever those things are that are coming up on your horizon, it's really a great idea to have a running list of them, because that also allows you to do something which Larry is so amazing at. He is so incredible at doing this, guys, that I never ever do it. I definitely look for him to do it, and that is to do the research on these things that are sitting on our list.
Yeah, I like taking an item that we think we might be replacing and going online and looking up reviews and product statements and features and things and prices, and how will it match what we need it to do, and is this item good at doing those things?
What that also allows us to do is not only have a running list, but have a little column right next to it that says expected amount needed to replace or repair this item. And then that is going to go in a separate column, so we know this is probably about what it's going to cost us. But by the time the thing breaks, we have money set aside for it. We know about what it's going to cost us. We've already basically narrowed it down to a make and model of that item that we think we're going to want to get to replace the one that just went kaput.
Number 5 is keep a list of frugal habits nearby. These are things that will help remind you of things that you can do every day to help you to conserve the money that you have.
What it also is like really good for is if you have one of those days where you're like, this was a no good, horrible, terrible, rotten, very bad day. Anybody remember reading that book to your kids when they were younger?
I was just thinking of that book.
I know it. Yeah. And so sometimes we get to the other day and I think, well, this was just one of those days, wasn't it? If you have that list handy, it does help remind you. It's like a little reset that says, wait a minute, okay, although this day may have like pretty much gone up in smoke, there is always tomorrow. And tomorrow, here's a list of really great frugal ideas, tips, strategies, habits. Let me pick 2 or 3 of them, and I'm going to start on these tomorrow because I don't want to get stuck in the no good, horrible, very bad day.
And just remember, if you're riding your bike and you fall off, pick your bike back up and get back on and continue riding.
All right, step number 6, have specific goals.
If you don't have something to shoot at, you're not going to get it. You have to aim for the things that you desire to have.
What kind of goals do we have? Well, we have short, medium, and long-term goals. Not too much long-term anymore because we're getting a little bit older. So long-term is 5+ years. And so, I suppose we have a couple of longer-term goals, but most of ours are short and medium-term anymore. So we have an ongoing list of those goals. We also have quarterly goals for our finances. We have monthly goals, and we also have, yes, dun, 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 weekly goals. Don't let this be scary to you. We call it our big 3. We get together on Monday morning and say, what 3 things do we really want to focus on as far as our finances are concerned this week? We write them down, and then we go for it.
How do you change your financial picture? You do it every day, every expense, and every goal. Remember, everything that you do counts.
Here's something else to remember. If you want to know like big money goals, how you're going to reach those, we have that free ebook available, 10 ways to radically reduce your expenses. It's all the ways that we cut expenses when we were going for it for those great big money goals on a low income.
If you're intrigued about what other habits you might implement to help you save money and reach those goals, we did a video on it, and that video is right over there.